Welcome back. I'm Anjanette Levy, and it's Friday, and we're taking your questions in this special 2-hour edition of our lunch show Q&A on the YNW Melly case. Lots of great questions coming in, so we're going to get right to them. This one comes from Jessica Obiagi Ampa from YouTube. I hope I pronounced that properly. Terry, from the video, there was a red car alongside the one Melly was in. Have the people in the red car been interrogated in case they saw something?
Well, yes, I think they have been interrogated. I do recall that they mentioned during openings that there were some conversations, but the defense is saying that it wasn't followed up enough. There were, as I recall, 4 people in that car, as there were 4 people in the car where Melly was. And one of the things the defense is saying is this wasn't followed up enough to find out what these people knew, to go back to the house where Henry was. So the investigation, at least according to the defense, was botched. Now, whether or not these people will be called on the defense case, they have not been called on the prosecution's case. The prosecution has been focusing mostly on data like DNA and data like guns and data like, you know, all of the forensics going on. But we will, I think, see more people, more individuals who might have been involved. And we may see on the defense case some of the individuals who were in that car. Right now, we haven't heard much about them at all.
Mm-hmm. We do know that they were questioned, though, and Christine Bradley talked about that, the prosecutor, in her opening statement. So it'll be interesting to see if we see any of those people get up there. Our next question comes from It's Rabo exclamation point from YouTube. If Melly does end up winning this case but has to go on house arrest, for example, will the judge decrease the time on that punishment due to his diagnosed mental disabilities? And Michael Bryant, I think this has to do with the fact that some people were commenting on TikTok the other day that Melly has ADHD and maybe some other things going on. I'm not sure if he wins the case why he'd have to go on house arrest. What do you think?
That would make no sense. Obviously, if he's acquitted, once he's processed out, he's a free man, he's done. There would be no house arrest. But it's interesting that people are focusing on whatever the chatter might be about some sort of ADHD or spectrum issue, or it's very interesting always to see what the people outside looking in to this case are making of it. But yeah, acquitted, you're out, you're done.
Nisha Graves from Facebook. Is Cortland Henry out on bail during the trial, Offie?
Yeah, I do believe he is out on bond. He got a lower bond than Melly. I think Melly has no bond. And I know there were a lot of questions about that, and I have always said that
it's crazy that Cortland
2
Henry,
people who
the
may
guy,
be charged with the same crime, they don't necessarily get the same bail amount. Because
the crazy part is the guy that actually has gunpowder residue on his hands lied to the prosecutors, to the cops. He pretty much told 2-3 different stories. This man is on bail.
Next question in Pretty Vibes 333.
Melly's locked up.
TikTok, it's pretty clear where
Don't
she
make
stands
no
on this
sense.
case. She asks, do you think Melly will be able to sue the state if found not guilty as compensation for the 5 years they stole from him because of circumstantial evidence? Terry, would Melly have a case to sue? Should he be acquitted?
Good question.
Well, anybody can sue anytime for anything, as the expression goes. I think if he did, he probably would not prevail. Sadly, there are so many defendants who have been incarcerated and ultimately tried and found, not guilty. And they could go back and say it was, false arrest, malicious prosecution. They could say that they want compensation for all of the time lost, the pain and suffering caused to the family. But, the prosecution and the legal authorities, the law enforcement, they have some immunity. They had probable cause to make the arrest. They thought they could win the case. They probably would be protected as far as that is concerned. And as my law school professor used to say, too bad, so sad. It's a very difficult situation. And I think the families obviously are hurt by the fact that you're in jail, you've missed your life, but the way our system has been designed, it's very, very, very difficult to prevail on that type of claim.
Yeah, I would think so. It'd be different if he was determined to be wrongfully convicted. You know, those are cases where defendants typically have a valid claim and can get awarded some money from the state, but not for just being charged and put on trial. At Jason, follower of Christ from YouTube, asks, how is 100K track Jamison Francois not charged? Michael, I'm sorry if this one's coming out of left field, but how is this other guy not charged, the Jamison Francois?
Yeah, I'm not all that clear on his connection to any of this, to be honest with you. And you know, we talk about the prosecution having trouble putting the case together against Jamel Debbins. I'm pretty sure that's why this Francois has not been in the mix. Apparently, they don't find him connected in any way that suggests criminal activity. Whether he did or not, I don't know. I don't know enough about what he did or didn't do. I got to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's keep in mind, too, it seems to all be focused on the state's case, at least. The people charged were the people that got into the car that left the recording studio that night. Cortland Henry, Bortland, and Jamel Debbins, YNW Melly. Those are the two people facing charges. So they think that these two paired up, staged this phony drive-by, that's the state claim, and this was actually just a murder between friends. That's what the claim is, at least. Let's get to our next question for you, Afi. Let's see. Britt, we already asked that one. Clayton from YouTube. As of right now, who do you think has had a better trial? Afi, I think I know where you stand on this one.
You know, the master class that we're getting, I think that defense counsel for Melly has been, he's been brilliant. He's been doing his research. He's been staying up late. And I love the fact that he comes in with his primary sources and just amazing case law. And I think that what I find interesting is every time he stands up, I see the prosecutor, you know, roll her eyes and get a little bit exasperated. And I've seen that before when I've had my trials. And I often think to myself, should I do less? You know, how should I unburden you? Oh, dear prosecutor? No, I should do everything I'm supposed to be doing to zealously defend my client. So again, I do think defense counsel has just been giving us all a masterclass in courtroom procedure, evidentiary procedure, and it's been great to see.
Let's get to another question now. It comes from Paris Lakewood from YouTube. Terry, is there a higher chance he gets out or doesn't get out? So it's pretty clear cut how this is going to work.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what that jury is going to decide. We're all looking at this from a legal perspective, being attorneys and analyzing the case and knowing what that burden of proof is. It is beyond a reasonable doubt. And frankly, based on the evidence that the prosecution has submitted thus far, I am not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. I think there are lots of doubts in this case, but you never know what a jury is going to do. There might be someone in there who convinces them, look, who else could it have been? And we could get a conviction. I do believe right now that if we had to poll that jury, we would not get a conviction. We would get an acquittal. But, you know, we've been wrong before, and juries are not lawyers, and sometimes they don't go by the law, and sometimes they vote with their heart. So we'll just have to wait and see what that jury decides at the end of the day.
It is certainly a wait and see game, and the case is not over yet. Let's keep that in mind. The jurors, they may have some feelings, but they're instructed not to begin deliberating till the case is given to them and they're back there in the jury room. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll get to more of your questions after we come back. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you're watching Law and Crime. Stay with us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all been watching and listening. They saying a lot of good things. They saying a lot of nothing, realistically, because we all been watching. So apparently today, due to these jurors being sick with the food poisoning, they're taking extra long with everything. So if the hour lunch turned into a 2-hour lunch. So that's why we've been waiting for so long. And I apologize. I didn't know that was happening until about like 20 minutes ago. But apparently they're going to be bringing in a bunch of experts coming up soon. So hopefully within the next, 30 minutes, I guess, if they don't come up with another way to prolong this, within the next 30 minutes, we'll have this back up and running and it'll be live. So what I'm going to do is I am going to leave this running. I'm going to let us, run throughout this time. And then when we go live, I will shut off and restart again just so you get a notification that we're back up and running. They are all coming back to talk about what they feel about the case, so you still be able to have that entertainment. And last but not least, we are going to take a quick break. I'm going to let you guys rock out with what they got to say for now. I want to appreciate you guys for watching us. King LeBron TV. If you are not subscribed, you might as well do that now. We are not going nowhere. We are going to be doing this every single day. Every single day. And the Bortland Henry case is coming up next. So stay tuned. I'm not a lawyer, but I got common sense.
Welcome back. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks again for being with us on this Friday afternoon as we take your questions about the double murder trial of rapper YNW Melly. Court is dark on Fridays, so we have more time to take your questions, and we thank you for being with us. Let's get to our next question from Wanda Lara Quintelf. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. This is from YouTube, I believe. This happened in 2018. Why does the death penalty, 8 out of 12, that new law, Terry Austin, apply to this case if the law was just passed in Florida? It seems like it's retroactive. What's going on with that? Do you know?
Well, the way DeSantis wrote that law, it started in effect immediately, and it applies to current cases. So this is a current case. They asked for the death penalty. That means when that conviction, if that conviction occurs, the jury will only have to have an 8-4 versus the unanimous 12-0. And so it's going to apply to any case that is currently up for the death penalty. So it all depends on how that legislation is written and the way this legislation was written. DeSantis wanted it to apply immediately. The suspicion here is that DeSantis did this because of the Parkland shooter case, and we all think that because that case came back and he did not get the death penalty and he admitted to his guilt and there were multiple aggravating factors in that case, DeSantis change the law that it doesn't any longer need to be 12-0. It can be 8-4, and it is going to apply in this case if there's a conviction.
And it'll be interesting to see how many appellate issues this may create. I mean, this is a sudden thing. I think they're the only state in the nation that does this, that doesn't have a unanimous vote. Let's get to our next question. Onimo Dalla, Michael Bryant asks, what if there was a drive-by? This is a hypothetical. What if there was a drive-by and Melly returned fire, striking his friends? Would Melly still be charged?
Wow, that's an interesting question. We need to know more facts about how this hypothetical might have played out, so I'll object as an incomplete hypothetical. But it does bring me to a point I think is the weakest part of the defense, and that is this whole story about the drive-by is what really happened. I think that story by the defense, which is difficult to prove at best, makes the defendant, maybe both defendants, the one sitting there, Jamel Demons, and Cortland Henry not sitting there, look more guilty. Why do you make up that story if not to cover up the crimes you've committed inside that vehicle? It doesn't really help this jury get to who pulled the trigger, but I think it puts a little, a little bit of a question about any of these defendants as to what they really did in that car that night, because I've not heard much evidence about the drive-by. You know, we see the bullet holes, and we're hearing that they just made that up. The prosecution suggests that, but I've heard no real evidence to support that it did happen or that they did it, just as a cover-up. It's been really just kind of brushed over. So I think that's a critical part of this case, what we do know and don't know about this alleged drive-by.
Well, let's keep in mind, they did find some evidence. They showed the jury this evidence of broken glass in the one location that is not where the Cortland Henry Bortland claimed the drive-by happened. It was really hard to hear, but the first day of trial, we heard Bortland's police interview where he outlined this story and told the cops what he claimed happened. So it doesn't match. His claim, they're saying, doesn't match the evidence at that scene where they said they staged the drive-by, or where the state says they did it. Harmony asks, Afi, do you think the jury is becoming suspicious, wondering what evidence his defense attorneys are trying to prevent from being admissible and why?
I think that's natural. It's natural to have some sort of curiosity, because every other minute we are approaching the bench or we're having to take extended breaks so the prosecution and defense can duke it out before the judge. So I do think that they're getting, I don't know if I'd use the word suspicious, but maybe they're just growing a little bit more curious about what may be, what they may not be being introduced, the information that they're not getting. So, and also I think their curiosity is probably being piqued more because I don't think the prosecution has done enough to tie Melly to the murder. So there are a lot of gaps, and they're probably wondering if the information that they're not hearing would fill in those gaps. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. We have our next question, Terry. B. Rax1 from YouTube asking, if Melly gets the death penalty, how long would he be on death row?
Well, there's no way BWAX1 to predict exactly how long, but what I will tell you is it will take a long time. There will be multiple appeals if there's a conviction, and certainly if there's a death penalty. Most of the death penalty cases across the country in those states that do have it, and some 30+ states do have it, takes forever to actually be executed. So they're going to have, appeals on what evidence went in. They're going to have appeals on what evidence did not get in. And it takes time to do those appeals. I would say if I had to give an estimate, certainly years, maybe 5 to 10 years, maybe longer. We've had people on death row for more years than even that. So it takes a long time.
It does take a long time. And sometimes these things aren't even carried out. It just depends on the state. A lot of these drug companies that use, they don't want their drugs used in executions. So a lot of these drug companies won't give their drugs to the states to carry these executions out. You've seen some states, Utah, I think Idaho just recently brought back the firing squad. So there's a lot that goes on with these cases, and the appeals often go to the federal level as well. Let's get to another question. Hens for All, Michael Bryant, will his lyrics be included in the state's evidence?
I remember there was a motion in limine, I think, because Murder is it Murder on My Mind? Is that right? Is that it?
Yeah, Murder on My Mind.
I'm not sure it's on my playlist, but I think that was a big question early on because, it tends to suggest very prejudicially that, hey, if you're going to write about this kind of stuff and sing about killing people and stuff, then you probably killed people. There's not a lot of probative value to that material. So I believe most of that was excluded and shouldn't be in front of this jury.
Yeah, and Christine Bradley said in her opening, that's artistic expression. We're not going to get into that. So she did make that statement. She may be prohibited from getting into that as well. Plus, it's been really controversial around the country. California actually has a law about using rap lyrics in murder trials, in criminal prosecutions. So the bar, at least in California, has been raised for being able to introduce that type of evidence. Let's get to another question. Gary Dye from YouTube, Offie, we've kind of touched on this before. What will happen with Melly if he is found not guilty? Will he be provided with a check or something along the lines of y'all taking 5 years of his life? So what happens, let's say Melly is acquitted?
If he's acquitted, I think Terry answered perfectly earlier. He will be set free. He'll be able to leave custody, and he, unfortunately, that would be it. I don't think that he will have any course of action against any of the prosecutors or any of the police officers or anybody involved in his custody and prosecution. I think the officers can show that they had probable cause to arrest him, and the prosecutors can say that they, did not go after him. They had a reasonable belief that he was guilty and there was no prosecutorial misconduct, and they did not have any particular issue against him. I remember defense counsel saying earlier that I think the lead detective on this case found out that Melly was involved. And if you prosecute a high profile person, you yourself become high profile. But I think that we've seen enough evidence to suggest that the officers, detectives definitely had probable cause to believe that Melly committed this crime. So all in all, he won't get anything except his freedom, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your liberty is very important, worth more than any type of, money your freedom is. Let's get to Josh, the Fortnite kid. Which side do you think the judge and jury are believing more, and how well do you think the defense team is going compared to the prosecutors? Terry, I know you've kind of touched on this several times throughout our little talk, but why don't you go ahead and explain where you think things stand as of now?
Well, I definitely do think that the defense is ahead of the game and that the prosecution has really failed so far to meet its burden of proof. I will say the question was also about the judge and the jury. I believe the judge is getting a little bit frustrated because it is taking time, but it's important to take time. It's important for the defense team to make their objections. Whether or not we want to have the trial concluded faster, it is an obligation that the defense has to do this. And so I definitely think from the judge's perspective, he wants his case to be concluded. He does not want more sidebars, and I've just noticed that as time goes along, while he gives each of the sides an opportunity to express themselves, he wants to get this case resolved. And so he's being, I think, a little bit harsher on both parties. As far as the jury is concerned, they've been paying very close attention. They lean up in their chairs. They've been very attentive to the entire case, even when we've had those witnesses who go on and on about theoretical things, like when we saw the first week, the person who was the gun expert go on and teach us all about these guns. So I think at the end of the day, right now, if we took a poll, the defense is ahead of the game, but I think the judge, the jury, and the parties and everyone right now is paying very close attention to what's going on.
Yeah, it's a big task they've got. It's a very important case. These are very serious charges. Isaiah Reyes from YouTube. Michael Bryant, why did the state try bringing in evidence while trial had already started and thinking that it would help them bring the jury back? And I'm pretty sure they're referring to the cell phone information that came up the other day, the discovery violation that the judge said occurred with the state.
Yeah, I mean, that's never a good look. And fortunately, the jury doesn't know about all of this backstory that's happening. But we know there's no love lost between the prosecution and the defense in this case. I'm sure Terry's seen it up close down there. And it is an adversarial relationship, but it can still be professional. But when you cross that line and you are violating discovery laws and orders, you got a problem. And I think subconsciously it hurts your relationship with the judge. Because if you can't be trusted on some of the more superficial and really fundamental elements of preparing a case and putting on a case and sharing what you have to share with the opposition, well, maybe I don't trust you to do anything properly. Maybe everything you do, I'm looking at a little side-eyed, you know? So I think we've seen it in this case, maybe more than in many other cases, and I think it does have a negative effect on your case, no matter who it is that's putting on their side. It just seems in this case the prosecution's got a lot of problems, and this is just another one of them.
Yeah, the judge actually seemed like he was glad it was Thursday yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught that, but toward the end of the day, he just looked like he had had enough for the week. Let's take a quick break. We'll wrap this up and get to more of your questions when we come back. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Just wait.
Smithfield marinated pork. So many flavors, if you can't decide, we get it.
I'm gonna go for the pork.
Yeah, good choice.
for joining us here on Law and Crime. We've been taking your questions this Friday afternoon about the YNW Melly double murder trial that's been going on for 2 weeks now in Broward County, Florida. Terry Austin's been down there covering it dutifully for us. And we've got some great questions still coming in, so keep them coming. We love taking them and explaining everything to you. Onimo Dalla from YouTube, Terry asks, what if drugs and alcohol were involved and it played a part in Bortland not being exactly sure where they were when the shooting happened? Could that affect his memory? I think that's a really interesting question.
Well, it is interesting. We have not seen any evidence to date about drugs and alcohol affecting anybody's memory, frankly. We do know that Henry was in that car and he drove to the hospital and he told the law enforcement and the officials at the hospital that he had 2 people who were shot in that car. No one so far has said that, he was in any way not his, full mental state, or that he was drunk or that he was on any sort of drugs. So it hasn't come in yet, and they certainly have not said that Melly was doing any drugs that evening. So I suppose it could affect the memory of anybody who was there that night. But, thus far, we have not seen evidence that any of the people involved, including the victims, had any drugs or alcohol in their bodies. Now, we might see something when the medical examiner gets on the stand about drugs and alcohol, but nothing to date that I've seen so far.
Yeah, most definitely. I haven't seen that either. G. Starma from YouTube asks, Michael, at minimum, what result does Melly need to be free? 7 or less votes. And I think that G. Starma might be confusing the death penalty part of this with the guilt phase of this.
Yeah, obviously it has to be unanimous. Otherwise, you've got a hung jury. That's the end game. I want to point out here, we talked so much about the death penalty, and now we know that it's an 8-4 decision to impose the death penalty. But Florida is a wacky state. They had a non-unanimous system up until 2017. It was just in 2017 that they changed to we must have a unanimous decision on the death penalty. And now, 6 years plus later, they're back to where they were before. So it's not brand new in Florida. It just continues kind of the back and forth weird vacillations on this very critical decision that a jury has to make and may have to make in this case.
Afi, this question's coming to you. Rich James Beach from YouTube asks, are there psychological effects that come with being a court defense attorney?
Okay, thanks, Rich. There are psychological effects that come with being an attorney, especially depending on what area of practice. I was actually speaking with someone the other day because you'll find that a lot of attorneys, especially, trial attorneys, sometimes, they need different things to release. So, alcohol might be one. You'll always find like a really good bar where you'll find a lot of attorneys, maybe even some judges and representatives, because a lot of criminal defense attorneys deal with a lot. We deal with people in society who've been hurt by society or who are hurting. Sometimes it could just be an interesting dark world. Also, just the trial aspect. It's hours and hours and hours. You might be doing 16, 18-hour days. You've got somebody's freedom on the line. So it's extremely stressful. I know attorneys who had just exhaustion and had to be hospitalized after trials. It's a lot. The evidence is gory. It's just not pretty. So a lot of people, sometimes after a trial, you just need to take a break and de-stress and, find your freedom.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, Afi, that what we see when we're watching these feeds, it's a pretty sanitized version. We're not seeing the really horrible crime scene photos and stuff like that. So defense attorneys, prosecutors, investigators, judges, they are seeing all of those things as our jurors, and it can be pretty traumatic. Terry, this is a good one for you. It comes from Courtney Davis from YouTube. Hi, Law and Crime. Hi, Courtney. What is the makeup of the jury?
Well, Courtney, thank you for that. There are 15 jurors on that panel, and I believe I counted 9 women and 8 Man, does that add up to 15? I'll have to look at my notes again. But as far as their backgrounds are concerned, they are mixed. I looked visually. Okay, so there are 6 men and 9 women. I think that's what I said. And it looked to me.
Yeah, that's 15.
Yeah, it looked to me as though their backgrounds were very different. You can't really tell by visually looking at someone what
Looks
their
like we're
background
gonna be
is.
back
But it looked as though there were
5
7
minutes.
people with diverse backgrounds.
5 minutes and we shall
maybe 8
resume
who
with
are Caucasian.
court.
Hard to say though when you're looking at someone. I will
Tune
say
in,
from age
share.
perspective, they are all different ages ranging. I would say from the 30s to the
Tune in
50s.
and
The one
share.
common trait that they all have is that they are paying very close attention. I said this before. Several of them have glasses, I will say. Several of them are taking notes. But each and every one of them, I've not seen anyone who has fallen asleep. They are all very attentive. They sit up in their chairs. They actually turn their chairs so they can look better at the witnesses
We're on a
who are
5-minute
testifying. So
countdown
I think
here,
it's a good
ladies
jury.
and
It's
gentlemen.
a solid jury. I like it when the jury is not all one
And we
composition.
should be starting with court.
It's very interesting. And yeah, they often say, these jurors are supposed to, the juries are supposed to reflect the communities they serve. So they like to have a good mix of people, a diverse mix of people on these juries. We've been taking your questions here for the last 2 hours, and sadly, we are all out of time. We love doing this, and we'll be back doing this again with you next Monday. For now, I'm going to be signing off. Michael Bryant will be taking over after the break. Terry Austin, I know, is going back to Florida next week for the rest of the trial. So thank you for being with us this last 2 hours. Afi, thank you for joining us as well. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you've been watching Law and Crime. We'll be back.
Hello there, and welcome to the Law and Crime Network. I'm Michael Bryant. Hope you had a chance to join us for our Q&A session with Anjanette Levy and Terry Austin and some other guests. Always a great time. The grueling pressure of those questions, I'm telling you. But we appreciate you doing that, and it's always great to see what folks have on their mind as we watch a case like this one. As you know, we're going to do a deep dive today. They're dark in Florida here in the case against Jamel Demons. So we're going to take that opportunity, as we did with our Q&A, to kind of get deeper into the case. This is a double murder trial, and even though they are dark on Fridays, a lot happening in that shortened week. We had the holiday Monday, and then today's dark. So remember, he's facing 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his friends, Anthony Williams, Christopher Thomas Jr., Christopher Thomas. And they had their rap names, their stage names, Sack Chaser, Juvie, all aspiring rappers. So Jamel, a.k.a. Melly, had his hit Murder on My Mind. His co-defendant, Cortland Henry, also with him that night, but not at the defense table. He will be tried later. The 2 victims were in the car as well, and they are saying, the defense, this was a drive-by, and that's how these guys died. However, there is some evidence suggesting that the gunshots took place from inside the vehicle. That's basically the prosecution's case, and that leaves Demons on trial now and Henry to be tried later as the prime targets here. So there were some juror issues this week. This has been just a strange case in terms of the parties involved. Prosecution and defense constantly at one another, and now the jury members a little concerned. Yesterday, there was an undercover detective called to the stand to give insight on gang culture. As you know, that's one of the prosecution's kind of sub-issues here, that this was done all as part of a gang initiation or to impress gang members, that Demons was willing to kill these guys who were his friends. Well, this gang expert, to protect his identity, was wearing a mask. Yeah, like a literal ski mask, right? That didn't sit right with one of the jurors. That juror was actually brought in to have a conversation with Judge Murphy to talk about this concern. So watch this.
Messages during the last witness's testimony, and the first one said, I don't feel comfortable. Why does he get to see us but we can't see him? That's your message to me?
Yes.
And the second was, I need a moment. I can't listen properly. When I was a child, I seen someone get robbed and am having an anxiety attack.
Yes.
And I guess my concern is, are you able to sit as a juror, or you think this is too much for you? I'm trying to figure out. And that's why we took a little extended lunch break to figure out whether you feel comfortable and you're up to it.
Yes, I feel comfortable, but I just don't think it was appropriate for someone to be masked up like that. And plus, you guys didn't even tell us. Like, you don't know what people have been through, so it just shocked me, like a shock. So
We still going through this?
But I do feel like I can handle it. But that just wasn't appropriate.
Come on.
I'm sorry?
I said I don't believe that was appropriate.
Well, some things I make certain decisions about things, and then we go forward with it, and I instruct jurors. And are you think you'd be able to follow those instructions, and you pay attention to the evidence, or do you think that you're concerned about the masking that is going to affect your ability to follow the instructions and follow the evidence?
Yes, I can listen and follow the evidence now that I know he's going to have on mask. I can listen.
This was from yesterday.
We're past that, you're okay?
Yeah, I took my
The girl you're listening to right now said that she felt more comfortable wearing a mask while that dude was wearing his mask.
So
Had me
upset.
dying.
It sounds to me like it was more about almost unfairness. Not that she was frightened by this witness that was masked, but that it was just not fair.
Right.
I'm joined by civil rights attorney Joe Richardson, also with me trial attorney Catherine Lizardo for this hour. Thanks, guys, for joining. Appreciate that. Hey, Catherine, let me start with you. We've seen situations in which we've needed to mask the identity of a witness, sometimes a minor, sometimes confidential informants. I'd put this guy kind of in that
I get
category.
that stuff.
But we've not really seen them physically wearing a mask to the point that the jury doesn't get to see them. It's okay if we don't. We get that. But this witness felt it was necessary. He said he had been threatened, said there was a $50,000 bounty on his head. What do you make of this whole situation with the masking of the witness?
The juror's question here, I think, is very understandable because when viewers saw the witness as well, it was a bit shocking with a ski mask on. We hear the juror talking to the judge in that clip saying, we were not even told that the witness will testify with that mask on. I think she was initially shocked about it, and with her past experience of seeing a masked man with a ski mask robbing a store when she was a child, that brought about anxiety. Maybe if she was prepared beforehand and the jurors were told, we will have a witness who will be wearing a ski mask or a mask to cover their identity, that might help her out.
That's what makes me believe that they
have. Why she would have felt that. Maybe they could have used a different kind of mask because, like you mentioned, sometimes the undercover agents or a minor would not be shown, but the jurors can see them, or maybe use a different kind of mask that's less intrusive, such as that black ski mask that we've seen.
Yeah, they even could have used, put him in another room.
I'm gonna show you how they had
with a video camera on him that only the jury could see.
I don't know if y'all seen this, but I'm gonna show you.
I don't know. It seems to me, I mentioned it earlier. I just think it was a bad decision. I think it affects the process. And let me ask you this, Joe. When we hear this juror say that she just thinks it's inappropriate, she said that more than once. Well, to me, that's a bias that she's going to hold against the prosecution. They were the one doing something inappropriate. I think there was some argument to excuse her from the jury. They have 3 alternates. What do you think?
If I was the prosecution, I would have probably looked to do that. The fact of the matter is, I don't disagree with what the juror is saying. It is unfair, and there's 2 levels. First of all, we spend all of our times and all of our lives looking at people with ski masks on, and we assign criminality to them.
This is
how
they had him
and so now here we are, and this guy's basically wearing a mask that makes him look like a criminal. But
he was
they get a couple
like
of jury
a federal
agent. The judge lets them know,
testifying like this.
They're not, but we are a visual society. 70 to 80% of what we get is from visuals,
which was weird to me, bro. This is funny, if I were to testify, I was like, this is how
they say what they say.
This is how I would pull up if I won the lottery.
She's on very good ground,
just like this,
saying what she's saying on the ground.
But this is how he was testifying.
That being said, if I'm the prosecution,
and then the funny part about it,
what I try to do to fix that is try to get this, get that person
part about it.
Excused from the jury. The danger with that, though, is in a worst case scenario.
What I was trying to get at was the funny part about it was the girl that y'all was listening to. She was like, "Well, then pass me a mask. Let me put a mask on, so that we all feel comfortable in a mask."
Credibility. The way we all, and all the more important in this case. And particularly if, as a defense alleged, they had different options in terms of
that's how he testified.
Then perhaps that becomes another appealable issue.
And
so there's a lot of problems there, and I don't
off.
disagree with this juror at all.
Yeah, no, I think it was a bad call, and I think it may come back to haunt the decision in this case if there is a conviction. So that's not the only thing going on in this case this week, even though it was a short week. Earlier, an issue arose when a juror was asking the security guard who was escorting them, into court. They kind of shepherd them around. This juror asked, "Hey, what's the status of that mistrial that was filed last Thursday?" Now, this is not something a juror should be just discussing or even knowing about, really. Obviously, they were in the room when the issue was raised, but that's it. So there was some confusion about where the juror got the information in the first place. Let's take a listen to this.
I need to bring to your attention is when we broke this morning, one of our jurors, as Gary was escorting the jurors out, he was approached, and one of the jurors had asked him a question. Gary, go ahead. You want to tell us exactly what was said?
She more or less asked me if she could ask me a question. I said, well, it depends. So the question was, she said, well, what's the status of the mistrial?
So now, I don't know what you want me to do about that, but that's the question that was posed.
Oh, that's true, bro. You know what? This passed right by me, bro.
I think it was.
This jury is bananas, man.
I think there was it was done on the record by Mr. Allen the other day. You know, my recollection, and I could be wrong, is different than yours, Ms. Bradley. My recollection
Free
is
Melly,
that,
Liam.
there was a motion for mistrial.
I feel you, man, at this point.
Out loud.
That looks like what's going to happen.
But the juror's been instructed not to read anything about the case. So I don't know if there's something in the newspaper about that. That's a different story, but I don't know what you want me to do, if anything. I bring it to your attention, any real interaction that Gary has with them, something that may seem inappropriate, we always bring it up and let you know.
And should I assume that for future reference, you'd rather I make those motions outside the presence of the jury?
Just come silent.
Okay.
But that was my recollection. I thought you, at one point, I don't know which, there was 2 motions for mistrial. I don't know at which point, but I believe at least one point you stood up and said, I have a motion for mistrial.
No, actually, there was a question asked. I said objection, move for mistrial, and you called the sidebar and asked me to hold it until the end. And then at the end, after the jury left, Mr. Allenstein and I articulated motions for mistrial on an independent basis. And that's how it trended. That's how it went down.
But it was announced in open court, correct?
I said objection, move for mistrial.
That's my recollection.
I remember coming sidebar and there being that being said in sidebar. I don't recall it being said in open court.
I thought it was said in open court.
It's a fact that I said.
Prosecution's
So it
pretty
may
much trying to
sound
say
kind of
that.
like a difference or distinction without a
Prosecution's
difference,
pretty much
Joe,
trying to
but
say,
it is
like,
important
YNW Melly's camp.
From counsel
is,
in open
like,
court.
I don't know, man. I think they got their hands in that jury. I don't care what nobody says. People showing up sick, the mask issue, people asking questions about mistrials. They're jurors, bro. Like this is so.
If you're looking at it one way or the other, depending on what side you're sitting on, you're trying to see if the juror did something improper in terms of going outside the 4 walls of what goes on in the trial, getting further information about the status of the case or anything like that. The fact that the word mistrial was said, so the question was begged, and of course,
so
it
what the
wasn't
prosecution's trying to fight right now is
made that juror ask that question. Okay.
Why does
so
the
you want to
juror
make sure?
Know, why does the juror know about a mistrial? So the prosecutor was trying to say, "Oh, we had that conversation in private," and he's like, "Nah, I said it. I said it in court."
Not only their
as I
personal
was
opinions, but information and research from other sources. And so they look to be
and
good
asked for
on
mistrial.
That. The question becomes, now what do you do because you know the question has been asked? My sense, I mean, we'll see, but my sense is that perhaps the judge said something in general in everyone's presence, something that the attorneys would actually agree to, so that there is some sort of clarification, maybe even adding, at times we may start to deal with something, or there may be a motion that is brought, or there may be something that is said, but it's not actionable as it pertains to your job unless we say so. The word mistrial was said. We acknowledge that. You'll notice all of the discussion took place away from
3 days ago, I believe.
That meant that it wasn't in your purview.
3 days ago.
It wasn't in front of you.
Yesterday,
so maybe some kind of, then there's probably an instruction
3 days ago,
to that
because
regard
2 days
anyway.
ago, I came in
some
thinking
explanation by the
we were
judge
gonna
that gets them kind of
get
where
a
they
mistrial.
need to be.
Yeah, something curative that would just say that's not your business. You don't need to worry about that. We're moving on. And Catherine, what I do like is this is a proactive jury. They've had some very interesting things to comment on, and they've made comments when they felt it was necessary. I think this one was handled as it should have been. What's your take on the mistrial question?
I think so that it was handled that it should have been, because like what you mentioned, I like how this jury actually asks questions when there's something bothering them, because the last thing you want is a panel of jurors who's just sitting there and something's bothering them and you can't actually address that. So the mistrial word used by defense counsel, it just shows the reality of how when you're in trial, the jurors who are lay people are relying on their experiences, and we hear mistrial in movies or TV shows, and that rings a bell to a lot of the jurors or lay people.
They were me.
And so there's that have to be careful when whatever you're saying. But at the same time, he had the right to object and say move for a mistrial, and that's legal. And so the curative way here is for the judge to tell the jury, when you hear something like that and you're not in privy of that, please disregard that. Kind of like when you hear objection by the defendants or objection by the prosecution counsel, that doesn't mean that that's something you have to consider unless I rule for it. So there are things happening there.
And, we talked about the fact that the defense doesn't really want a mistrial because they're doing all right. But that's a different issue.
Pretty much.
And I do think that the counsel could have handled it differently, could have just said, objection, we need a sidebar right now, and then use the word mistrial, a little more quietly. But anyway, they dealt with it, and we're going to come back in just a few minutes here and talk more about Melly and the masked man. This is the masked detective that felt he had to cover his face.
They're
and
making this
some
such a
problems,
big
as we
deal
just
for
learned.
no
We're going to
reason,
listen to
bro.
some of that testimony when we come back.
Yes, I've never seen a guy walk into a courtroom with a mask on. But then again, I guess there's a first thing for everything. I never thought that they would have so many issues with the jury alone, consecutively, back to back. What do you guys think, man? What are you guys thinking in the chat? I got a bunch of people watching. I know y'all got y'all opinions. What do y'all think? What do you guys think?
But no, I'm anywhere. Stared at.
All it takes is one, and we can start a whole conversation about what you think. And shout out to the people who followed me today. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. It does pop up here every now and then. I don't know why that's not working like it's supposed to, but here we are. Like I said, I think a half an hour ago, I said, 2:00. And we are 2:17, and we're still waiting for live trials. I wonder if they're waiting for those jurors to come back, or what are we doing today? Thank goodness I didn't stream the first half. You really would have been excited. We got people on Facebook. What y'all thinking on Facebook, man? What y'all think about this trial so far? My people on Facebook be talkative. What y'all think about this trial so far? I'm still a bit confused and waiting for the big bang or whatever you want to call it. You know what? While we wait, I'm going to introduce y'all to my new mixtape. No, I'm just joking, bro. I seen that the other day, had me die. Ah, man. I hope y'all having a good day. I'm trying to figure out things to talk about, keep you, occupied. But it's Friday, and I guess we not talkative on Fridays. Tuesday was good. See, Tuesday was good. Wednesday was good. Everybody was talking Wednesday. No, Tuesday. Everybody was talking Tuesday. I guess it's Talking Tuesdays. All right, I see a couple people just joined in here, so we might as well give a quick recap. You ain't been watching. You ain't been missing too much. So far, Melly came in. He looked happy today. He was in good spirits. He was laughing with his team, laughing with the guards. At one point, they tried to offer him a pen and then took it away from him as a joke, and everybody started laughing. I don't know. So they looked like they was in good spirits over there. As soon as it went to start, pretty much it went to start, and they shut it down because some jurors were sick and had food poisoning. Clearly, they gave them something bad to eat over there because 3 of them ended up sick. So all they've been talking about all day long today is the same thing they've been talking about all day long yesterday. Pretty much the guy with the mask, the federal agent that jumped on the stand with a mask on. That's pretty much where we're at. And I put on a mask just to, you know, show how kind of dumb it looked. It felt stupid while I was doing it. So I could imagine how he felt doing it in the courtroom. Yeah, more waiting, Brody. DCTV, my boy. That's my boy right there. They found me. They found
And welcome back
squad
to Crime. Michael Bryant here.
Yeah, but more
the
waiting,
Broward County
though, pretty
courtroom where we were looking at the case against Jamel Demons. It is dark today. We're okay with that, though. Gives us a chance to catch up on some of the activities of this week. This is a double murder trial for YNW's Melly. Have you looked up YNW? Have you Googled that? I'm not stepping in that landmine.
Don't Google
Anyway,
that.
this 24-year-old
Pretty much.
defendant is looking at the death penalty if convicted in the shooting death of his two
24
friends. The
years
victims,
old.
Anthony Williams, Christopher Thomas Jr., they were in the car with Demons, say the prosecution, and the co-defendant, Cortland Henry, who will be in a separate trial. He is not at the defense table in this trial. This took place in the early morning hours of October 26, 2018. And they were shot. Now, the Murder on My Mind rapper claims that they were all
understand what
victims,
that
and
means,
it was a
but I
drive-by
believe that
shooting.
says Free Melly.
But he was arrested in February of the next year when
Give me a
authorities
thumbs up if
figured
that says
out,
Free
in
Melly.
their opinion,
I believe that's in a
shooting
different
took place
language.
from inside the car.
Throw the thumbs up.
Yesterday,
in the chat
we had
if that
this
says Free Melly.
interesting mix of kind of concern by the jurors, which we've talked
I'm gonna
about,
have to use
and
Google
testimony by a
Translate for
very
that one.
interesting
But
witness.
I
Detective
appreciate
Danny Polo took the stand. He's testifying about the gang culture and how it relates to this case, because the prosecution has suggested that Demons killed his friends as kind of I'm a gang guy, and you can either initiate me or elevate me because I'm willing to do this. Yeah.
Your close
But he
friends.
testified in a mask. That's the odd part. Let's listen to what he had to say about the gang codes and how it relates to this case.
What is the proper response if someone says rise and shine?
I shine, you shine, we shine, G shine. It's a very popular G shine saying.
This is what he testified as far as like G-Shine, blood
It doesn't
gang
have to be
lingo.
exact.
The stuff they use in text messages and how they talk and stuff like that.
It'd be like variation of it. Like right there, I shine, you shine. Right? It's not exactly like the other one.
Okay. And in terms of, it says these are meanings, not replies. So if someone says this, is this kind of more the dictionary part of it?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like some of these dictionaries, it just, the answers, but the definitions to the word,
G'd up, brazy, G-Shine, Empire, I'm proud to be.
Unless
They
you
kill
have
you, they kill me. I shine.
the person in front of you that wrote that, you probably won't be able to decipher it.
Okay. And this continues on in this with different
codes.
Okay. And reviewing these codes, are they consistent with some of the other gang knowledge that's been recovered and that you have learned about?
Ass naked, no good.
Except for some of the, obviously some of the codes are different because codes are updated periodically. For the most part, a lot of these are.
Yo, they literally taking.
Have continued to be used.
Okay.
New York,
And so there's
New
some of
York,
the terms you've already defined, like
Gate.
set tripping. Is 1965 on that list. Is this something that they continue to evolve over the years?
The code?
Yes.
It could if, big indictments come down and.
Yeah, that's the DEA agent, bro. That's the I don't know if he's DEA. I think he's FBI. That's the agent that came on there and
a lot of people
was testifying to knowing the Bloods and knowing that specific gang and knowing how they talk and their lingo and what means what type deal.
Chain of command, the restructuring.
So he's pretty much breaking down their whole Bible, their lingo.
It's how they
talk, what they mean when they say certain things, and the reason why I think they pinpoint this right now.
Well, I think I'd be a horrible gang member. I can't keep up with all the rules, and it's just very complicated.
Yeah, that look like a quarterback's play sheet. But listen, So pretty much they're putting that out there so that, because like I said, they got something on these phones, man. They got verbiage on these phones that this dude is gonna be like, yeah, that means that they did this, or that means that they killed that person. That's pretty much where they're trying to like go with this. So it was like a drawn out session of, you know, what that dude did in his career, and the defense try to make him look inexperienced.
Members of that ilk of music getting involved in violent activities. Is that
Catch Republic?
that,
I feel you. All the way from the Catch Republic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You know, the gang
Keep
raps
watching.
and the
Keep
gang
watching. It's coming
references, that
sometime
is
soon. I've been
implicit
saying that all
bias
day.
already, and
But
even
I'm here.
explicit
I'm waiting with
to
you.
say that,
We on our
because
way.
It will make
Yeah,
it
he was a
seem
weirdo,
that,
DC man.
if he is proven to be in a gang,
The defense try to pretty much say, like, you know,
the prosecution
how they broke him down was.
he is
Here, let me, because I can't really speak when she's screaming. The defense pretty much broke it down like this: like you don't have enough experience, and in the jobs that you've done, you weren't actually in the field. You were gathering information. So like you were the one retaining all the information from the people you put out in the field. So that's what he meant by, you know. Oh, that's what the defense was trying to pretty much break down. Like, you know, you're not experienced enough. You don't have enough hands-on experience, and you yourself are not undercover in a gang as a gang member, so you can't really give us too much expert opinion on this matter. And that's how they, you know, they tried to shut him down, you know what I'm saying? But and we'll let you listen. I'm gonna listen to more of this jargon.
Put out videos or commentary about gang activities.
Yeah, we're in the era of social media, so everything's on social media right now. Gang members.
If you sliding through, do not forget to subscribe. We're here all day long. We are doing it all day long. Next court case is going to be Borland Henry's court case. YNW Melly's co-defendant.
They did when they were incarcerated, how the gangs were formed. The leaders and the founders of these gangs that are now no longer in prison do podcasts and talk about how the gangs were formed, when they were formed, who did what, and what kind of...
Listen, to people that are watching, that are out there putting out podcasts about the lives y'all lived, y'all gotta watch it, bro. Look at what he's bringing up right now. He's saying that they learned the majority of all of this stuff that they're talking about from watching people's podcasts and videos, people who used to be this or used to be that are now home telling their stories and giving their religions out. Like, that's what he's saying. Like, we don't really gotta work anymore. We don't gotta work. We could just go on YouTube and you do the work for us. And no matter how many times you tell people this, we still end up here.
Or not of any special rank.
They watch it, dog.
Videos see find out someone is claiming to be a blood or a crip, and they're not.
They jot they
notes down on social media to get views, and some of these confrontations turn into physical assaults. People get called out for being.
We got people watching in the Czech Republic right now. We got somebody watching. We got a thug from watching in Jerusalem right now.
Social media raising its ugly head once again here, Joe, and
we got
even
people
in the
from out
gang
the country
world
watching right
and
now.
The prosecution
Shout
using
out
that
to
to
y'all,
kind of
man.
help bolster this argument that this was all gang related. These two murders. I have to say though, we have to remember this guy. We've seen this shot before because we're disguising him by not showing his face. But we know, this is as an aside, I was just thinking about this. We know he was sitting outside the courtroom in the one of the pews along the hallway there without a mask. And I'm just trying to figure out, at some point he gets up, gets a mask out of his bag and puts it on and then walks into the...
Shout out to that guy.
I don't know, that seems like a bizarre scenario.
That guy
anyway,
makes
Joe,
good
that's
decisions.
not my question. What do you think about the impact of the social media on the whole gang and rap world to the point it coexists and this case?
Yeah, it's actually there. I mean, there's social media. One of the things that
Could you imagine
gangs,
if
I
they
guess,
could use
aren't,
a
or people that are
song
gang
right now?
affiliated aren't immune
You
from,
imagine that?
is this counterintuitive thing that happens when you've been taught to have discretion in terms of what you say, think before you speak, or whatever else. People rile all of their thoughts as they're happening on social media.
That's
So
videos from
gangs
the
probably
phone
wouldn't
that
be
they
any different
say
from that. That
all
being
of them
said,
shared.
I think the problem that they have, the prosecution needs to lay out is that, what they're saying is hopefully for them creating a motive. And apparently these guys were close friends, okay? They want to be able to emphasize the evidence that would seem to suggest that the car came from the shots came from the inside, that, they're getting in the car together, all of those types of things. There is evidence there that would maybe get them over the hump. But to say that because of gang culture, this would happen, well, you still got to buy it if they're supposed to be close friends. They just came from a studio session, etc. I don't know, to my mind, if it's going to be enough just for the police officer to say, this is why it happened. Particularly when the guy's sitting there looking like Spider-Man.
It can't
Yeah,
be
and if you
enough.
have seen, there are still images of
There's
him
no
in
way
the
it can
courtroom.
be
I even
enough.
think one of our law and crime articles has that. It's the full ski mask with just like a slit across the eyes there, and then a mouth hole, and it's
They're still
just
tripping about that
it's
ski
just
mask.
off.
I have one right here, bro.
So
Just the hat.
let me ask you, Catherine, how would you have handled this if this presented itself to you in the courtroom? What would you have done?
With the witness, the
Nah, keep it
detective
100.
that has
Throw it in the
ski
chat.
You're
You
the
sit in
defense
court,
attorney,
right?
and you
sit
have
in
to
court,
deal with
right?
this.
Well, if I was the defense attorney, the
you
first
on
thing I would
trial
do
and
is
somebody
obviously
pull up in a
object and
mask
say
like that,
that the
what you
ski
doing?
mask
What you
is
thinking?
preventing
Who is that?
the jurors to
Who's that man
evaluate
with a
and
mask?
confront the witness in violation of the confrontational clause, because they should be able to see all of his facial expressions, and we see how with Melly sitting there, with Jamel Damon sitting there, the juries are looking at him and his facial expressions.
Yeah,
So they should
that's
be
a
able
fact.
to look at the witness and look at his facial
Determine whether
expression
that
as well
dude is
as he's
lying or
delivering
not, bro.
his testimony. So the objections is there, but we see that the judge and the
How about
prosecutor
this?
and the
How about
defense
that?
here
Better
were
question.
trying to come up
Can you
with a
tell if somebody
proposal to
lying if they got
protect
a
obviously
mask
the
on?
interest of the witness
And you
as
can't
an
actually see
undercover
you can
agent
see the
who
eyes and
said
the
that
mouth, but
there's
you
a
can't see their facial
$50,000
expression.
bounty
I
on his
don't
head.
know.
So let's balance that interest and my client's interest as well. Maybe excuse everyone else in the courtroom and have the jurors just watch his testimony and we could just hear audio just for his part. That's a possibility.
Yeah, I know they talked about that. Apparently, that has other ramifications. There has to be a hearing before you can exclude the public, and so they didn't go that route. And obviously, the judge is having to balance this and make a call. I personally think it was the wrong call. They could have done it differently. They should have known ahead of time and had options set up to handle this.
Sense.
Anyway, they didn't.
Makes
One of the
sense.
jury members not happy. She's still on the jury. This witness testified, and we'll find out how it shakes out. I guarantee you, it is a major appellate issue if this results in a conviction. So, good stuff, guys. Stay right where you are. When we come back, a lot of other things happening in the news as this Melly case is dark today in Florida. And I've got one that is it's a
Very
gut
dark
punch. We're
today,
going to talk
bro.
about it
What's going
after this.
on?
Stay where you are.
I started watching this other trial for some Parkland shooting or something like that. That one's crazy too, man. But I thought we would have a hell of a lot more action today, guys. I promise you, I did. I really did. I really wanted to give you guys a show here, but no, I thought the defense was gonna come out and start throwing punches, and we was gonna get some actual answers today, and jeez, man. Jurors going out, people falling, people questioning outside stuff they shouldn't be. The prosecution trying to blame the defense for, I guess, pushing a juror to go out there and ask that question. I guess that's what she was trying to get at. I don't know. And then come to find out, hey, man, I said that on record. That's on record. So she would have heard me when I said it in court. Not when I, supposedly pushed her to go do it. This has been as far as crazy can go, this has been as crazy as can go. Never seen a court. Never seen something like this before. But I'm gonna stick to it to the end, my friends. I never give up. You see my little globe guy behind me? That little globe guy right there, man. Never give up. We're gonna figure this one out, dog. But so far, like I said, no new information that I know of. Nothing pertaining to giving us a picture on what they're actually doing, man, or how my boy's gonna come out to be. And like I said, I don't got any side in this, man. Honestly, bro, if you are the type of person that's okay with, peeling on your own people, man, I'm not in agreement with you. But then again, like I said, if he didn't do it, it don't look like it don't look like a super fair trial right now. Because let's just say if he did get convicted, I'm not saying he will, but let's just say he did, bro. Based on what they got, that means they can convict any single one of us for any single reason, bro. I think there was a lot of craziness that happened that night. I'm pretty sure he knows what happens. We all pretty sure he knows what happens. Only the people in that car know what happened. But if you want to put a man in jail, you got to be able to paint the picture of what happened. You don't need a motive. People keep talking motive. Somebody could just black out one day and do something they never done before. You don't need motive to convict somebody. But you do need proof, bruh. You do need some kind of proof. You need proof to be like, yo, he did it. This is his fingerprints. This is his DNA. This is the gun. We found the gun, or we had the gun, or whatever the case may be. They spoke about they drilled the fact that somebody was asking Melly's mom for a gun, and the defense pretty much said, well, that could be anybody because that phone's been used by everybody. We all know common sense that wasn't just anybody asking her for the gun. But the fact of the matter is, you can't prove it. Doesn't matter what you think you know is what you could prove. Can't prove it. You can't prove it was him that wrote the text messages. Can't prove that it wasn't a setup. You can't prove that somebody on his team set him up. You can't prove nothing because you don't got nothing yet. Or we don't know that you have anything yet. You had a masked man.
And welcome back to Law and Crime. For this segment, I want to turn our attention to a developing case out of Ohio. And you're going to say I'm making things up because this is truly unbelievable. A 32-year-old father is accused of lining up and executing his 3 young sons. The guy's name is Chad Duerman. He was arraigned this morning in Claremont County Municipal Court, where he pled not guilty to the charges of aggravated murder, kidnapping, felonious assault.
They should
the
have
3
just shot him
boys,
right there, bro.
3 years old, 4 years old, 7 years old. They were killed about a week ago on June 15th. The authorities believe it was a .22 caliber rifle that the defendant had in his possession at the time they arrived. Now, Duerman's wife called 911. She's there, and she is shot in the hand. He also has a surviving 14-year-old daughter, apparently not part of the fracas that day. Before I bring on my legal panel to talk about this case, I want to show you some of the body cam footage from the day of the incident.
Here. Shooter's falling towards. Get him right here.
Yeah, turn that off. Start making my blood boil. Bro, listen, man, I don't get why they let people. I don't get why they let people walk around us like that, bro. I'd rather stick to the Melly case. I don't even think I could cover something like that. You'll hear my trucker's mouth the whole time. Wow. That was definitely a buzzkill. All right, man. Y'all gotta come back, man. Y'all gotta give me something else to think about. That was no bueno, man. I'm trying to kick that out of my brain right now. I heard of that case, bro, and I literally I think I saw like maybe like a 2-second clip of that, man, and I was like, no way. There's no way I could watch this BS. And that case is about to start. I wanted to stream that one, but man, oh man, oh man. I don't think I could do that one, dog. Like, what would make you do that to your damn kids, bro? Your kids, man?
Whoa. So here's the guy. He's sitting on his porch like, got nothing else going on. The rifle is sitting right there beside him as he is apprehended. Wow. Joe Richardson is here. Catherine Lizardo, both attorneys. These cases, they just blow my mind. They are so inconceivably evil. Again, he's innocent until proven guilty, but from what we're learning right out of the box, it's horrific. Joe,
forget that, thoughts?
Bro. I don't even know where you start here. He lies.
I'm 18 and over.
His 3 preteen kids, youngest woman's 3 up, stands them up against a wall or wherever they were, and he shoots them, and one of them tries to get away, and he goes and chases him and drags him back, and then shoots him. He is inherently evil, but I would I have to take the opportunity to demonstrate, or to use this as a demonstration of how much deference that frankly white defendant can get. They told him to stand up. He didn't stand up. He wasn't a threat to them. I think he understood that. They understood that. I guess they saw the rifle or whatever else. But he didn't stand up. It didn't end up being a deal breaker. They took him in alive. He'll go to jail forever. I think they'll get the death penalty on him and everything. But they took him in unharmed, like he's a suspect in a check writing scheme.
So that's interesting. Let me ask you this follow-up then. So, obviously you're suggesting if he were not white, they would have handled this differently. What do you think?
They might have, or statistically speaking, it would have been handled differently more often. Maybe it wouldn't have been handled differently often, all the time, most of the time. But it's just quite amazing to watch, and to see up close that somehow, even though he just killed his family, he was going to be okay here. As long as he demonstrated that he wasn't a threat to them, even though he wasn't compliant. So it's interesting. You can't lose those things here. But that being said, this is a terrible thing. Of course, it shouldn't have happened. And they will throw the book at him. It's sickening to everyone, it just makes you wonder what the world's coming to.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, Catherine, what the hell is this guy thinking? What is twisted in his brain? What is happening? From all appearances, he's got a wife, he's got 3 kids, and apparently another daughter, maybe from a different relationship, but pretty darn normal, if I can use that word, and then he does something as far from normal as possible. It reminds me of the Chris Watts case a little bit, out of Colorado, where the guy kills his 2 young daughters, putting them in an oil tank, kills his wife before them. But just unthinkable and unexplainable. What do you expect to hear drove this guy to do what he did?
It is a very horrific sets of circumstances. One of them was horrific. I've heard that we've covered here as well in Law and Crime. And what's really disturbing too is he supposedly planned this for 3 months before the killing. So when there's an argument of maybe insanity, if they're going to argue that, I don't know, we haven't heard that, but if they argue that, he has been premeditating and planning this for 3 months up to the point of
Why
obviously the
not just
shooting.
leave,
And
bro?
he executed only the 3 boys. He had a 14-year-old stepdaughter who ran out of the house during this execution and tried to get help. And the mother also tried to intervene and was shot on the head. So he specifically targeted these 3 boys
she
because he
cheat
did
on him or
not
something? Like, what was
kill the
going
mother,
on?
fortunately, and the 14-year-old. So this is really horrific, and he supposedly gave an admission afterwards. I'm sure the defense will question that, whether that's a valid admission or not. We'll hear more, but those are the information we have so far.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not
gotta
wishing
look
this on
into
anybody,
this
but
now.
why would you not shoot the wife as well, who's right there? And I just can't fathom what we're going to hear about the motivation for what this guy allegedly did. But we, of course, will stay on top of it. Thanks, guys, for the insight on that. It is a difficult crime, and we'll keep you posted as it develops right here on Law and Crime. Let's take a break. We'll come back. The Jamel Demons case continues in Florida. They are dark today, but lots to talk about, and we will right after this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to really go try to figure out what's going on, if these people are even coming back on today, if they not coming back on today, so that we not all just sitting and waiting for something to happen. If indeed they are not doing anything today, I might switch over to that trial that I didn't like so much. So
Are you interested in starting your own faceless YouTube automation channel?
sure,
But all
buddy. Maybe
people
one
do is
day.
tell you to go to
Maybe
Fiverr
one
and
day. I
Upwork.
appreciate it. But yeah, I might go ahead and switch to that other trial, just so we're not just sitting here waiting. And then when and if the Melly case comes back up, we'll jump back right on that. So once again, man, if you sliding through, that's cool. We appreciate you. If you're watching the case, make sure that you're subscribed, because I disconnect sometimes when it goes dark and then I jump back on. It's the way you're going to know that I'm back on. Hit the subscribe button. We got some people from the Czech that subscribed today. We got some people from Jerusalem that subscribed today. We got some people from around the corner that subscribed today. We getting people from all over the place. We just trying to, have some fun, do some entertainment stuff. But I appreciate y'all watching. And once again, I'm going to go figure out how long this actually going to take. And if they not going to come back on today, I'm going to switch over to the trial with the father that supposedly, did what he did. You guys kind of seen some of it just a second ago. So I will be back. King LeBron TV. I appreciate y'all, man.
crime. One more segment for you here as we continue our live analysis. As you know, we've been following this double murder trial against rapper YNW Melly. It's in Broward County, Florida. The 24-year-old, there he is. This guy's 5'2", 130 pounds. He's a small person. He's 24 years old. He's looking at the death penalty, possibly, if convicted in the shooting deaths of his two friends, Anthony Williams, Christopher Thomas Jr. Yesterday in court, there were some arguments, and a lot of them have been in this case, outside the presence of the jury, where the prosecution wanted to admit some text messages between the defendant and his mother. So, in a normal, mother-son conversation, he's asking her about the things you talk about, like, I want to buy a Glock. So let's listen to those arguments.
Jamie King
This is the stuff I was talking about
is sending
earlier.
a text message to her son. Send me your location. I'm in Stewart. I love you so much. He then sends a return the location showing at or about the time of the crime as to who was using and doing that. Okay, love you, again from Jamie King. I'm at your gate. I'm going to get the trash. The next response is bring Mariah, which Honor's already heard testimony that Felicia Holmes, her daughter, Mariah Hamilton, was in a dating relationship with this defendant,
Shout out for
and
everybody
that at
sliding
this
through on
time,
Kick, man.
and that there was conversations, and that she has identified Mariah as Mariah Hamilton. Then there is okay. It continues. He then asks his mother to buy him a Glock ASAP,
Mom, buy me a
and
Glock.
telling her, like, go now. So she then responds, okay, what's wrong? She says, I got your 45. Then his response, I just don't want no illegal gun. Well, that's not illegal.
Okay, so hey, son, I've got your 45. No, I need a legal gun. So work on getting the Glock for me, Mom. Come on. Bizarre. So Judge Murphy ultimately ruled that those text messages would be permitted during the trial as evidence. So let's get some thoughts on that. First of all, let me have you switch hats here, Catherine. I know you're a criminal defense attorney or quite often handle defense. I'm going to make you a prosecutor now. What are you going to do with that material? Use it to your best advantage.
Well, if I was the prosecutor, I would use it to show that the criminal history and criminality for Jamel Demons, of course, that would be prejudicial. So there has to be a balance as to how you present that so that it doesn't show that just because you're a gun owner and your mother buys guns for you, that you automatically are a criminal and a gun shooter. So the prosecutor would have to toe that line. But what I find interesting here is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like that conversation happened at the time of the shooting or after the shooting, because I heard the prosecutor actually say that Jamel Demons showed where his location was at the time of that chat. So that could also be used to show where he was at the time of the crime.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and that was not really the thrust of the argument, but you're right. It's definitely a little corollary. So, Joe, for the defense, how do you just dismiss this? How do you kind of poo-poo it?
Poo-poo it.
I'm certainly going to argue it's more prejudicial than probative, particularly in a world where they actually don't have the gun. The gun is unrecovered. I don't know if I may have missed the testimony about what the shells and the things that they found demonstrate as it pertains to the type of gun. Of course, if it's a different type of gun, I would argue that as well. But I would argue that it's more prejudicial than probative. It doesn't come in because of what it is that they're trying to demonstrate and what it is that they're actually missing. The best evidence of what gun was used would have been the gun itself, and they don't have it.
Yeah, that is kind of a problem. And so we've had a lot of cases in which very important pieces of evidence have been missing: guns, bodies. So, Catherine, how do you get past that? Because I'm not sure the prosecution has yet, and we've only got about 30 seconds.
Well, you bring up as much circumstantial evidence to show that he was the shooter, and for now we haven't seen that much, but the state is not yet done presenting their evidence.
Wow, that was only About 12 seconds. That was pretty good.
You see how she said,
well,
but the
thank
state
you
hasn't
guys.
been-
Always a
the
pleasure. I'm
state
going to
is
thank
not
and
done
excuse
presenting
Catherine
their
Lizardo and Joe
information,
Richardson. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on, and we will do it again soon. I predict. Have a great weekend. Okay, that's going to do it for me, Michael Bryant.
I'm over
This
here
case will
watching this other
continue.
trial.
They'll be back at it Monday. Terry Austin will be down there
I
in
knew
the
that was
courtroom
gonna happen,
for us,
ladies
so
and gentlemen.
the
They
fun
didn't
is
shut
just
it down.
beginning in the Melly case. Have a great weekend. Try to do the right thing. We'll see you next time, right here on Law and Crime.
Yeah, so pretty much, guys, all the fun is over, unless something else pops up here in a second. But check back with me tomorrow. No, Monday. I'm sorry, I forget. Today's Friday. Holy moly, that's how long this trial's been going on and how crazy it's been. Check back with me on Monday, man. We will be jumping in on Monday. Monday, I'm gonna be streaming the minute that the trial starts, which will be, I believe it's like 9 a.m. I'm gonna try to get that one in the morning, just because due to all these recesses and them canceling court today. Pretty sure they're gonna have a lot of stuff going on, so I'm gonna catch that early. And I mean, you never know, man. I might jump off here and I might go find another trial that's going on right now. Then there's like 3 or 4 of them. If y'all interested, like I said, if you're subscribed, it'll pop up on you. It'll jump on you. It'll be like, we here. But for now, I guess we wait till Monday for the Melly trial. I guess if I'm Melly at this point on Friday going in, kind of happy because nothing really happened, and no real pressure has been applied at this point from the prosecution. I'm like, Monday's the day I have to do something. See what I'm saying? That's why I say I'm gonna stream early Monday, because if she's gonna do anything, it's gotta be right now. It's gotta be now. She's gotta throw something out there, because all this dragging the technicalities of people's jobs and what they do and how things work, like, lady, the jury doesn't know none of that. And no matter how many experts you put up there, they're as confused as I am, and as confused as everybody else is, and it's going to continue to be that way until you put out some real evidence. But like Shorty said, she said it, the state hasn't put out everything they have yet, so we don't know. Don't know what they got coming up. But we will 1,000,000% be there to find out. That's for sure. I guarantee you that much. So, like I said, subscribe. I love y'all, man. Y'all been sticking around for a minute. I see the ones that be here and watching, and y'all be engaged the whole time. I appreciate y'all. So, like I said, Monday we get back at it. If I find some time right now to go look at something else, and something else is popping and it's going crazy, I'm gonna stream that. So, if not, you could join us tonight. I don't know how many of you are gamers out there, but you could join us tonight. Tonight we will be gaming all night. Another portion of what we do here. But, man, once again, enjoy y'all. Today's Friday? Is today Friday? Yeah, today's Friday, man. Enjoy your Friday. Go spend time with the family. Go spend time with the girl, with the kids. Spend time with the dog. You know what I mean? Go spend time, doing some mental stuff, making your brain better. Go spend the rest of your weekend enjoying yourself. Go get a bag. Go get a drink. Go find a friend. And whatever you do, man, just go be happy. All right? Once again, King LeBron TV on all platforms. We everywhere. King LeBron TV on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Kick, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever else they decide to open up anytime soon. But like I said, man, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a wonderful night.